Hey guys, today is another weekly wrap-up. If you do not know what this is, that's where I talk about the books that I have gotten in the past week to add to my to-be-read pile, the books I have finished in the last week, and the book that I'm currently reading. And now, as I have mentioned in my last weekly wrap-up, I'm going to add the movies that I have finished in the past week also. But the one thing that I said I was going to change, I have changed my mind on, and that was where I was going to do the book reviews separately instead of doing them through here. I am planning to not change that. I will keep on doing that, but I won't do a full review of the movies through here. I will put links below so you guys can go check them out on my blog site. So, that being said, let's talk about the movies that I have watched in the past week. I watched 3 movies. The first one being Brave, about a young Scottish princess named Merida, who is up to be married by a eligible princess, I guess, and they have to do a competition to get her hand. She chooses what it is. She tries to compete, but instead makes her mother even more angry with her, and she does not want to get married at all. So she accidentally turns her mother into a bear. So I had a few issues with this movie, but they weren't all that big to me, and I absolutely loved this film. I gave it 4.5 stars. The next film that I watched in the past week is The Amazing Spiderman, and I gave this film 3 stars. I didn't particularly like it very well. There was a lot of issues I had with certain things, and I have yet to write a review, but by the time this comes up, it will be up. The third one I actually talked about in my weekly wrap-up, but I will say again, it was Dark Shadows, and I will put a link to my full review down below, like I said, with all the others. And I gave that movie a 3.5 stars, maybe, possibly. Yeah, 3.5 stars. So let's talk about the books that I have read in this past week. I would like to mention I didn't get any books this past week. Sad me, but that means you don't get a to-be-read pile list today. So let's talk about the first book that I read, and that is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. And this is about Chio, whose mother is very ill and her father can't take care of her. So she is taken to Kyoto to live in an okaya and learn to be a geisha. So what I really liked about this book was the beautiful and poetic writing that Arthur Golden uses to create this story and to create this part of the country, the culture, and the beautiful parts of it, and even the ugly parts of it. And what I especially liked was the fact that Arthur Golden, who is a male author, was so skillful in his writing that the Chio became so real. She is the narrator in this book. She is the one telling you her story. It's like you're sitting right across from her, and she's just talking to you about her past, and you're getting to know her throughout this book, and getting to know what happened to her, and why she became a geisha, and why did she leave Japan, and all this stuff. It's just really, really beautiful. It was really beautiful. It was to the point where I forgot that Arthur Golden was the author, and I really started thinking that Chio was a real person, and she was writing this to you or telling you this story. So that was really well. But when it comes to the writing itself, the metaphors, etc., all that stuff could be a little bit heavy for people. I know that in some of the reviews that I've read, they did make mention of how heavy that was, and felt like it was him trying too hard. And maybe that's so, but I didn't really mind it as much as a lot of people seem to have. I just thought it was really, really beautiful, and that is one of my favorite parts about books, is when an author can write a book in such a beautiful and poetic way that you can just absolutely see what is going on, and you can just imagine what that must look like. And that was the one thing that kept me going throughout this book, was his writing. The characters themselves, I really liked Chio. She is such an innocent person, yet she is shoved into a very not innocent world. But she was able to become a geisha whose world is not as low as the other part of Kyoto, which her sister was forced into. And she had a more better life, but not really. It's kind of hard to say how you could say that, but compared to what could have happened to her, she did have a better opportunity than sadly her sister had. I think what my issue was with this story was not that it wasn't beautifully written, it wasn't well developed or well paced, it was that it was kind of boring to me and predictable, in the sense that I kind of sensed that where the story was going. It was an enjoyable read. It was fascinating to see this culture be given to you in such a way that you could understand what this culture was and understand what was happening, because I think, I don't know, maybe Japanese culture is a very hard thing to understand compared to us who live in the United States or even in England, where that kind of culture is just so different, so unfamiliar, so foreign to us. That could be a problem, and I think that he did a really good job in writing this story and giving you this culture in a way that it helps you not be overwhelmed by it. I know the one major issue that I think that someone, at least one reviewer, had was that he thought that he was taking too much liberty with the culture and fictionizing a lot of things instead of giving you the truth of what that culture was like. But this is a fiction, and I think that's where this person misconstrues certain things. Like, as it is a fiction, I think the author has the right to twist certain truths into whatever he wants it to make the story a little bit more interesting for us as a reader, and to twist it just enough so that we can understand it. He had a level of truth and reality into this story, I believe, to the point that we could not be like, why would he be saying that this is such lies? Because it didn't come off as a lie, but I could understand that there were certain things most likely that were a little bit off if you knew the Japanese culture. But for me, I felt like it was good. Like, he made it good. And like one commentator said on his thing, if I wanted a Japanese cultural lesson, I would go find a non-fiction book. This is not a book to go to if you want to learn about Japanese culture, because there are going to be things that are not going to be true. So I think that as a reader, we need to remember that this is not a non-fiction book. This is a fiction book. It's a novel, and there's going to be things that he does to twist it so that we will enjoy and be entertained throughout this book. Yeah, I give this book a 4 stars. Like I said, I had some issues with it. It was kind of boring. It went a little bit too slow. I think that it was a little bit predictable. The last book that I was able to finish this week was a book that I had to read for class, and that is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And this is about 4 members of a family who lived in Holcomb who were murdered by Perry and Dick, who were trying to steal their money. And throughout this book, you're kind of shown these 2 characters, and the author kind of gives you this picture of who they are and what they did and what their parts were, and you have to kind of decide if this person really did these crimes, or if it was the other person who actually did the killings and all this stuff. And you start slowly, as you progress, you slowly are able to kind of come to your own conclusion, and you see their trials, you see how long it took them and all this stuff. We're studying these 2 characters, we're studying who they are, and then we have to write a paper about if these persons should be the death penalty or not. It is just really hard. I don't like this topic at all. So I liked the writing. The story was well developed. The characters, he gave you a good picture of who these people were. But the story is really hard to like a story like this. And you really shouldn't like a story like this. Is not an entertaining book. This is not meant to be entertaining. So I can't say I liked the story. It was just awful because these people, oh my gosh, they're so, as the title said, cold-blooded, and it's just really awful to try to understand these guys. Understand Dick, like, he's a psychopath. Like, from the very moment that I started reading about him, I knew what he was. But Perry, he's completely different. Like, one minute you think that he's in his right mind, and the next you're like, oh my gosh, he's insane, he's a schizophrenic. And you're just like, which is he? And I just have issues with that, because I don't know. He's such a complicated person. So this book is a little bit crazy for me. It's really hard for me to know if I really like it or not. But I gave it 4 stars because I like the writing. He did a really good job in giving you a picture of who these people were, and the story was well developed. You got a whole picture of what was happening and everything. So, you know, for all of that, it gets 4 stars. So now let's talk about the book that I'm currently reading, and that is Eragon by Christopher Paolini. And this is about a boy named Eragon who finds a blue stone in this forest, which he thinks is something that can be used to pay for a winter's worth of meat so that they can survive for the next winter. But when it turns out to be a dragon hatchling, things start happening, and eventually he gets himself into a situation where he has to save the empire. I love the writing already, and I really like Eragon. He's pretty smart. He's pretty relatable. I'm really liking the I loved the epilogue. It was so creepy, weird, and cool, and just fascinating. I'm just wondering what's going to happen next. I mean, I watched the movie, but I haven't rewatched it because it's been like years since I watched it, and I didn't realize it was actually a book. So I am now reading this, and I'm gonna rewatch it, and yeah, hopefully this book is as good as it seems to be so far. It's progressing much faster than I thought it was. I mean, he already has the egg, or the stone, but we'll see how much longer it takes for the egg or the stone to become. I'm really confused about that part, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And I'm really excited about this book. Dragons! Oh my gosh, I love dragons, and this is going to be really cool. Tell me if you've read or watched any of these before, and tell me what you thought of them below. Again, I will put all the links to my full movie reviews in the down bar below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!